Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of No More Kids in Scientology. Thank you to everyone that joined us on our two lives going into the court, coming out from the courtroom today, where we got to witness plenty things that are not making a shred of sense. Hello, Minion. Hello, Fat Grammy. Thank you for being here, you guys. So, I really wanted to answer y'all's questions about what transpired, what I observed transpired in that courtroom today, because it's important that we can actually show up to these court proceedings and give everyone in our audience a sense of transparency about what's happening, what's going on. So this video, I am here to answer y'all's questions. I really want us to continue to inform the community and continue to advocate against the horrific abuse of children in Scientology hotels and commercial buildings. So please, you guys, the floor is yours today. There's so much still to process about what we witnessed, what we heard, what we saw the Scientology attorneys do. But in the interest of answering your questions, I just want to use this live to answer questions. So start typing your questions because we're going to answer them one by one. Don't all go at once. Don't all just send your questions at once, you guys. Come on. Start asking questions. I need to be asked the questions. Today, I need to be asked the questions. So let's see. Y'all have no questions about court? Nothing? Can anyone think of a single question? Put it in the chat. Question. Oh, here we go. Perfect. Question. How many were there for the Jane Doe? I think it was about 5 of us that showed up there today. So Scientology definitely had more representatives on their side. They had, I believe, 7 attorneys, 7 or 8 attorneys. Obviously, the Jane Doe can only have 2 attorneys. So definitely the Scientology attorneys were doing most of the talking, in my opinion. Florence, did a lawyer really push a Jane Doe on the elevator? Yes. Robert E. Mangle is alleged to have physically shoved, pushed a Jane Doe inside the elevator. And what happened was that after court was over, like I said, you guys haven't gotten into every single detail of what we observed and witnessed in that courtroom. The type of so-called defenses being brought up by Scientology attorneys. And exiting the courtroom, Lara FM, who you all know and love, was waiting until she exited the courtroom. And in the hallway, she started to shout out, denounce the corruption of those attorneys that were, you know, laughing it up and looking like they're having a jolly old time. And as Laura was saying those things, she started to walk away. And one of the Jane Does, she's not a Jane Doe, Chrissy Bixler was there for the Jane Doe, accompanied Laura through the hallway as she was coming down. I didn't follow them. I went the opposite direction, expecting that the lawyers for Scientology usually exit the other direction. And apparently, Robert E. Mangle found himself flying over to the elevator where Laura was leaving the courthouse, where the Jane Doe was also in an elevator. And again, I can only say alleged because I didn't firsthand witness any of this. So found it very, very curious that Robert E. Mangle found the strength and the speed and the determination to find himself in an elevator with clients that he's going up against in court, with literal plaintiffs that are suing him in court. Usually, whenever you see Robert E. Mangle, whenever I've confronted him, he's surrounded with people. He's surrounded with one person or two people that are with him. This time, he just went into the elevator by himself. So this is when the alleged pushing and swearing on his way out, as he yelled and screamed for the bailiff after he did the physical abuse, the physical shove, the alleged physical shove. Because like I said, I wasn't there. So allegedly, after he did that, after the fact that he touched someone else, he went bailiff, bailiff with his little cane in the air. So imagine that. Question: what was the result of this hearing? The result is that we definitely found out that the judge told everyone that he won't even be able to begin any kind of trial until 4 years from now. We're looking at 2027 or beginning of 2028. And, you know, the Scientology lawyers started by acting extremely upset that the Jane Doe is using a Jane Doe name and that his client has been named publicly. So the whole beginning part of the journey of this hearing was all about how it's outrageous that the person who is alleging was not only child trafficked, was also married off to a grown adult at the age of 17 and a half. Let's make sure that's clear for everyone. Scientology was in the business of marrying off underage kids to adults. That shouldn't sound shocking to anybody, because for the 10th billion time, Scientology parents and Scientology executives delusionally think that they can call children adults in small bodies. So the practice of marrying underage kids to grown-ass men like Gavin Potter were not the exception. It was the rule. All manner of underage kids were marrying all manner of grown-ass adults inside the Scientology hotels and commercial buildings. So the outcome was that the Scientology attorneys blabbed their mouth a lot. They acted very, very, very upset and appalled, and they made themselves the victim. And they succeeded in a lot of ways, in my opinion. In my own personal opinion, they succeeded to, they brought up down the rabbit hole news. They had a whole entire schematic that they brought to the judge to really show. It was the OSA man who brought that big board where they explain how down the rabbit hole news had exposed information about attorney Brian Kent. And they were very, very pressed to want to depose Brian Kent and bring him from another state to do a deposition, that they acted like he really needed to know a lot of information about it. Meanwhile, they also were talking about how the Jane Doe's mother, who turned in an affidavit, a lengthy pages and pages and pages affidavit to the court, signed that she would be willing to be cross-examined and asked about this affidavit under penalty of perjury. This was an affidavit Scientology put into the record. She was served, she was subpoenaed to appear before the court, and she didn't bother. And the first thing that the Scientology attorneys went to was, but she lives in another state. You wouldn't expect her to come here with such short notice. She's in another state. So when they want to depose people from other states, it's okay. But when we call for people that already swore affidavits and put it on the record to come and actually answer up to what they said, they find that ridiculous and, oh no, how could you be expecting that? Auntie M, which lawyer is handling this case for Scientology's side? Well, Robert E. Mangle is the top boss of all those attorneys, because he is the attorney that represents RTC, which is the so-called highest, most senior, so-called ecclesiastical, whatever it is that Robert E. Mangle says his client does. So his name is Robert E. Mangle, and there were another 7 attorneys there representing one Gavin Porter, one Church of Scientology International, another one Bridge Publications, but I don't know their names. That's a good question. We're going to have to learn their names and put it out there. Can you summarize the charges she's fighting for? I think we should summarize them, Amanda. I think that's a very good question. And I think that I'm going to get my hands on the actual lawsuit so we can actually break it down from the lawsuit. But it is, in a very quick summary, it's alleging child SA and trafficking. Marissa, question, how are the joints, the Jane Doe's holding up after today? I mean, in one word, I'd said we are a bit shook to have had that incident in the elevator. I think that was jarring, especially after everything coming out of that courtroom. So, not gonna lie, I think it's a little jarring what we're seeing. Do you want me to post the link to the account summary from the bunker? Sure. Or you guys can just go to the bunker to see an actual court report. I mean, we can discuss that, but I just felt like that information was already out there and I wanted to just answer more questions. But sure, if there's any way to facilitate the information, then let's do it. Airy Forever. Where did the religious arbitration come into play? Are they being made to do this? The religious arbitration, Airy Forever, was brought up, like we said, at first, when the arbitration was brought up, it appeared to us that the judge didn't understand that Scientology was pushing for the sham arbitration to be considered by the court. And again, we are going to say is sham arbitration in our own opinion, given the fact that when we were kids inside of those hotels, being insulated from the world, having no attorneys for ourselves, understanding nothing about how legal contracts work, much less arbitration, there were no attorneys provided to us as kids, let alone as adults, to tell us what in the hell we were signing. And Scientology groomed us, starting from our parents, to sign and sign and sign and sign. Signing in Scientology is something that people do all the time. They sign their check sheet. They sign their writing form. They sign their contract. They sign there are millions and millions of forms. So they're always making you sign. Your signature just becomes like part of whatever. Signing something in Scientology is nothing. You're always signing. Every day you go there, sign your check sheet, sign the exam, sign the essay, sign everything. Everything they have you sign and sign and sign and sign, and you just become completely numb because they always have you groomed to always be signing things. So that's kind of how the arbitration came up. And they're right now not being made to do this. At this moment in time, they're still figuring out where the other judge that had already tentatively ruled it was unconscionable, given the fact of the allegations. Because again, we've said this 100 million times, in what world are kids that grew up in this disgusting system under complete arrested development that was there on purpose, as they got groomed by Scientology parents, groomed by Scientology grown-ass executives that were all about enforcing these so-called signatures and so-called, they really have to sign this over and over before they do any service. So that's how it kind of came up. So, but we don't know yet what's going to happen. Kiara Sona, hello. Question, is Robert E. Mangle the one from the parking garage you were screaming at? Yes. Robert E. Mangle is RTC lawyer, the man with the cane with the white hair. He's literally David Miscavige's personal attorney for RTC. So he's been around for a long time. Robert E. Mangle is perfectly aware that L. Ron Hubbard is a convicted felon. And he still pretends that a convicted felon can be made into an American-bred god. Intimidation tactic. I mean, that's what it's giving, Kelly. It's giving intimidation tactic. It's giving, why was he going into an elevator with a plaintiff that's suing him and a child that his client child trafficked for himself? Why was he going in that elevator with them? Why was he going there alone? Why was he following the child that already had denounced him in the hallway into that elevator? Four years, Harry. 4 years, because the court dockets are full. Yes, Rabbit. I was listening in the bush. They literally, the Scientology parents, the Scientology lawyers put you on blast. They literally told the judge, oh, there's a blogger by the name of Rabbit that I'm sure you don't know. that put this out about Brian Kent. And down the rabbit hole they went. So you definitely were mentioned and you definitely got on the radar. Again, you guys put question on your chat. This is a question and answer chat. So anybody that has questions, please let me know what your questions are, because we're here to answer questions. This is a question and answer period. Kelly, if this hasn't been answered yet, question, what is the schedule for January? I believe there's a tentative next hearing for whatever it is that they're going to discuss in 90 days. That's what I heard being said in the court. I don't know how these people secured the timelines yet. So I can't say for sure, but I did say that from what I understood, it's 90 days that they're going to discuss the next thing. Is Robert E. Mangle a Scientologist? No, he's not. Robert E. Mangle is not. As far as I understand, he is not a Scientologist. Minion 52, do you think that the Child USA lawyer story with Jane Doe should have been made public or kept quiet until the trial was over? Minion 52, the problem with that situationship is that the behavior that was alleged in that confidential memo was, first of all, made public, was given to other people outside of the people that were supposed to be in the know. And once you know that an attorney compromised others, who's going to keep that information for themselves? So this is a very, very, very horrific situation. Nobody would ask for this. Nobody in their right mind would ask for this. So I don't know. I believe that the corruption needs to be outed. All of these attorneys that are literally being corrupt need to confront themselves in a mirror and not just continue to weaponize the law to the detriment of all the kids that are owed justice. So again, we're being victimized by attorneys that what? Purported that Owen Hubbard is an American bred God so that they could abuse us inside Scientology hotels with full impunity, and everyone plays dumb that that's very legal. And it's the same thing with this attorney. In what world was this attorney getting himself in that situation and not thinking about all the people he was screwing over? In what world is Mike Rinder not coming clean? In what world is Marcy Hamilton playing dumb on a full-time basis? In what world is that? Because they purported to be the adults. They purported to be, oh yeah, we're really the attorneys. We're really the serious people. And you know what? It's not giving serious. It's not giving that they're taking their job serious. It's not giving that they're advocating for victims of unthinkable, systemic, institutionalized crimes of the most severe nature with any sort of seriousness. Oh, thank you, Hirschbauer. Here's the summary of the lawsuit. Negligence, sexual assault, sexual battery, negligent supervision, failure to warn, negligent employment, retention, intentional infliction of emotional distress, fraud, public nuisance. There you go. So again, you guys put question on your comment so that I can get to it. Ari Forever, please give our love to the Jane Does. 4 years is a long time and a lot of expense. This is a lifelong battle. I'm sorry, Jane Doe's mom is not on her side. I mean, yeah, Ari forever. Our parents were never on our side. That is the most tragic, most horrific, most disgusting thing about our lives. Our parents were never on our side. Never. They've never been. From the moment we were born, we were being groomed into being put straight into harm's way. With all Scientology parents pretending that whatever they got off on as full-grown adults that they all are and were was going to be beneficial for underage kids. And imagine it goes so far, so long as to a Scientology mother writing pages and pages of an affidavit to literally put all this BS on the record that she knows are lies. That mother knows she's lying. Our parents know that they would lie if they're trying to characterize and blame us for the abuses and the criminal acts that they groomed themselves to accept, to normalize at an industrial size scale, and turn around and blame us for having a problem with it. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. That's how it worked at the hotel. At the hotel, they tell you all children are as responsible as all adults inside of this hotel. There's no differentiation. You're not a child. So by all means, Scientology parents, in what world you think that delusionally mocking up in your goddamn head that kids are adults is not going to result in criminal normalized activity at an industrial size scale? Criminal normalized activity that you can't just keep pawning off as if only David Miscavige ever did anything wrong and everyone there really was trying to save our world. So yeah, unfortunately, the Scientology parents have been always part of the problem. There are no kids in Scientology if there's no parents grooming their kids and offering their kids, pawning them off to go get audits, to become auditors themselves, to become groomers themselves in disgusting grooming courses. That's the problem with this exact situation. It sucks to be us. Imagine that in all the other stories that we see, we always see the parents come to the rescue and go, oh my God, they were abusing my gymnast daughter and I thought Larry Nassar was a doctor. Imagine that the Epstein victims had parents that said, oh my God, my daughter's showing up with money, cash, because she's giving a massage to a grown-ass man. Imagine our parents brought us to the Epstein-like hotel on steroids to be pawned off to adults that are willing to pay for our time inside of those hotels to go get what? Grooming courses, to go get what? So-called ethics handlings where they really get into what are your biggest sexual depravities? Can you tell us that? Can you write it down? We really want to see that in writing. It's what they teach the children, underage children. We're talking 13-year-olds. 13-year-olds. Why are 13-year-olds doing that inside of these disgusting hotels and commercial buildings? Can anybody explain it? Because you know what? The Scientology parents that are in there are purporting that they couldn't be more doing a very legit activity. But the parents that have done what? Done this, walked out of a threshold of a hotel with complete selective amnesia where they go, I tried to save a world, but I was victimized while I was trying to save it. Boo-hoo, it sucks to be me. Boo-hoo, let me go sell my victim story to as many pathetic people that cannot connect that dot as I can bamboozle again. Let me go launder my image real quick. So our parents have not ever been on our literal side. Grown adults that tell you you are an adult when you're a child are not on your side. They are a clear and present danger to all kids. Imagine if you had a school that was full of grown adult teachers and they would go, you know what we need to do in this school? Just do this, put this in front of a door. And then all of a sudden, all our underage children that we get inside of our school can start being treated like adults, like grown adults. And putting this, well, in the case of Scientology, they just went like this, because don't forget that this is their stupid cross. If we just do this, then it's legal. This is all it takes to circumvent the Constitution. This is all it takes to have no laws being applied. All it does. That's all you need to do. Apparently, you can get a hotel, you can get a commercial building, you plaster this all over the walls, you pay extremely high paid attorneys, a lot of money, tons of money. Like the retainer just needs to be infinite, every month, every week, just billable hours, and then whatever happens behind a door that bears this symbol is not a crime, including anything that was made to happen to underage kids. This is all it took. This symbol. The fact that a convicted felon wrote down all the memos that call for the criminal activity to be done. Apparently, the Scientology attorneys are so stupid, are so idiotic about who their client is. Apparently, Robert E. Mangle has no clue who's been paid to represent for the last how many decades? YRB, everyone needs to press the reintroduction of the FAIR Act and get it reintroduced to the federal state legislatures. Judges need training on Scientology contracts. Well, you know what? You just went a little over my head, but you know what? Let's find out from ChatGPT. What is the FAIR Act? Oh, look at this. Freedom from Abusive and Intimidating Rulings Act. It's a legislation designed to protect individuals from abusive lawsuits, often referred to as SLAPP suits, strategic lawsuits against public participation. SLAPP suits are often used to intimidate or silence individuals or organizations by burdening them with legal costs for speaking out on public issues. The FAIR Act aims to safeguard freedom of speech and the right to petition by making it easier for defendants to dismiss such lawsuits, ensuring that legal processes aren't misused to suppress voices. Thank you, YRB. I appreciate that. Yeah, we do need the reintroduction of the FAIR Act. Because again, the testimony of every child that was told they were an adult inside of those hotels is not going to continue to be sanitized so that the status quo can continue sipping on their cappuccinos, pretending that abusing minors, textbook aggravated child abuse, which is a serious felony, which is something that already Ruby Franke is serving a lot of time behind bars about. Already, Lori Day Ballo is already rotting in jail for the rest of her life for unthinkable, irreversible criminal acts against her kids, all done in furtherance of purporting that so-called this makes a parent immune from the law ever giving a literal shred of a literal F. And when we see those two things, we go, this doesn't make sense. The law applies to them, but doesn't apply to us. How does that work? I thought we were all supposed to be equal under the law. So in what world do we see injustices rubbed on our face while everyone plays dumb? In what world do we see Homeland Security raiding P. Diddy, getting a hold of all the recordings P. Diddy was keeping on himself about all the disgusting things he was doing to mostly adults? And yes, that man did also manage to ensnare underage kids. Did. But so far, what I see has been alleged is this many adults, this many kids. So this all represents consenting adults, and this is what represents the kids. These are adults that were fucked over by Diddy, and these are kids fucked over by Diddy. So in Scientology, you have this. Who didn't consent to be inside of those hotels? The kids. Who didn't consent to be locked up against their will? The kids. Who didn't consent to be exposed to disgusting, unthinkable, grotesque grooming of audits and so-called courses? The kids. Who didn't have the age to be saying, yes, I really want to be doing this because this is really going to be a great thing for me? The kids. Where's Homeland Security? Where are they? Because it took one lawsuit from one woman to all of a sudden have the entire government grabbing a hold of the tapes. Imagine there are hundreds of thousands of not only just tapes, of transcriptions of every one of these disgusting freak-off audit sessions. Being used for what? For blackmail. Being used for what? For undue influence. Being used for what? As pseudo depositions. Children get locked up in those rooms without an attorney fielding questions, without any advocate fielding a shred of questions being asked to incriminate themselves. Because in America, criminals, suspected criminals, are afforded an advocate. You know what's not afforded for the Scientology kids? A shred of advocate. You know who they have to go inside those audits and be asked those disgusting questions that they got groomed to think is really going to help them? Nobody. But is this being done with full impunity? You better believe it is, because it's all being video recorded, it's all being transcribed, it's all being graded. So adults sit there watching all of this and they give it a grade. Oh, very well done. You really did great. You really did get the A, B, C, D, E, F, G of a felony on a piece of paper. Bravo. L. Ron Hubbard said here that you did amazing because you didn't miss a withhold. That's how they pitched it. So we need the Fair Act. And we need to reintroduce that, and we need people to start actually speaking to the facts. Marisa, question, how can we show support to the Jane Does? Do you want us to talk more about this? I want them to feel supported. I mean, Marisa, like, you know, the Jane Doe, because it is only one that has this specific claim. Let's be clear about that. So that Scientology attorneys can't say that we're not being clear about it. Right now, one Jane Doe has the capacity to try and be heard in court, even though the Scientology attorneys are like, oh, but these are like 30-year-old claims, Your Honor. This happened 30 years ago. Yes, we were left for roadkill after we were abused 24/7, 365 inside those hotels and commercial buildings. It's taken us decades to connect a shred of dot, much less advocate, much less understand what the law was, much less any of that. So right now, the more people that can show up to these court proceedings so that you all can have your own seat, your own watching, and denouncing what already the law denounces. The law denounces trafficking. The law denounces abuse of minors. Indiscriminate abuse of minors is exactly the type of thing the law denounces. So all of you joining us here, all of you joining us there, all of you caring is what support we need as survivors. All of you that see us and say, yeah, I wouldn't allow my child to be locked up against their will and tell them that they're getting a therapeutic session. I wouldn't pretend to pitch to a child that doing that to themselves is in their best interest. We're talking about the most basic common sense. As much as we keep being misunderstood, as much as we keep being misquoted, purposely misunderstood. Oh, I don't know. It's very, very simple what's being asked. Literally so simple. Susan King, question, can the JDO charge with assault of that lawyer that pushed her? I'm so sorry, I'm crying, I don't know, Susan. I don't know what are the repercussions for doing that. I have no idea about that, but when something happens, you have to talk about it. You have to say something about it because that's what these people are expecting to not happen. So I don't know what's going to be the answer, but yeah. Karen, what is your opinion? Does justice for all these babies, even the adult babies now, what does justice look like in your perspective? Very good question, Karen, and thank you for asking that. Justice looks like transparency. Justice looks like the people that harmed us to start coming to the table and become accountable to what they did. Admit what they know they did. Admit to what they video recorded. Admit to what was transcribed. Admit to all the dysfunction that happened inside of that hotel as a result of them being under a delusionary state. That I don't care if they have to blame that on L. Ron Hubbard. All the things that I am denouncing are ideas of that disgusting convicted felon. So in the interest of fairness for all adults, y'all were the ones that did that bidding. I cannot point to a single adult in this disgusting criminal racketeering scheme that can say, oh, it's because Debbie Cook said it. It's because Angie Blankenship said it. It's because Angie Trent said it. It's because Claire Headley said it. It's because Ray Midoff said it. It's because Shelley Miscavige said it. It's because David Miscavige said it. No one could override L. Ron Hubbard. No one. None of them. Now, they did his bidding. They did. Blindly. Whatever the policy said, oh, it says to do that, and I guess I'm going to do that. Oh, it calls for locking up another human against their will and call that a great religious experience. Great, I'm going to pretend that that's how I feel about it. Justice looks like them coming clean for real and stating exact A, B, C, D, E, F, G of everything that's already put on the public record by me and plenty other Scientology victims of horrific child abuse that have come forward. Our abuse looks the same. It's cookie MF cutter, meaning that what? All kids had this done to them. All. There's not one single child that's exempt. 3 things: audits, ethics, and disgusting grooming courtrooms. So would love to see for Scientology parents to start actually taking accountability for what they did. To stop trying to sanitize the narrative as if they're needing to protect what? What are you trying to protect? Because that's all we've ever gotten. You know what I mean? The Scientology adults go, oh, David Miscavige, and at best L. Ron Hubbard wasn't being followed according to what L. Ron Hubbard said. Bullshit. The problem is that L. Ron Hubbard was applied. The problem is that all the things he wrote on pieces of paper, all the adults went and did without a shred of critical thinking skills, compromising their common sense. So justice looks like them coming to the table with actual testimony that pushes back, that repudiates completely whatever the hell they all groomed themselves to normalize inside of those hotels. It's time for them to drop the act. Drop it. You've already been caught. You've already been told. You already put too many children to watch what we never would have in our millionth years wanted to be a part of. It's that simple. We didn't consent to be pawns. We didn't consent to be slaves. We didn't consent to that. We couldn't. So where are the adults literally coming to their senses, literally going, we effed up big time. And now we need to ensure no other kids and no other parents, for that matter, follow on our stupid ass footsteps. We're not going to get anywhere until accountability and transparency is had by the people that have purported to want to blow a whistle, but always tell part of a withhold, but not the rest. Always go, oh, let me misdirect the public, because you know what? If you weren't there, you wouldn't know. That's the problem, right? That's why we have two sides. The attorneys over here, the attorneys over there. These ones say this, that one say that. None of these people were there inside of the hotel. So as much as they're going through papers and fluffing and filings and all this shit, they weren't inside of the hotels. So the Scientology attorneys at best have no clue who their client is. No clue that their client locks children inside hotel rooms, video records them, subjects them to disgusting, sexualizes massages, tells all adults that they can unzip their pants in front of them and undo their bra while they're at it. Apparently, all the top tier, so-called top tier legal firms of this country that represent Scientology have not bothered to see what the convicted felon pitched as the so-called religious experience that a child was going to have for themselves. So when those details of the facts stop being corroborated, not just because we are having to bypass our parents, bypass the executives, bypass the law enforcement, bypass everyone. Every single person is being bypassed right now because they won't do their goddamn job, because they won't actually put skin in the game of what it's going to take to undo this legal abomination. So when the legal abomination is canceled, when this hotel can at least say, if you are not 21 and up, you don't get in. Period. Where's your ID? Nope. Sorry, fake ID. You're not getting in. No, but I really want to be part of this hotel. I don't give a fuck. You are not coming inside of the hotel. This is 21 and up only. As long as, and I know that this is a very, very, very shocking, unthinkable thing for a lot of people. If adults want to turn themselves into this, and they are what? Adults, which the law recognizes is at least 21 and up. I mean, sometimes 18. I would say at least 21 and up. You want to be a slave inside of that hotel and you're 21 and up and you really, really want to do everything they're going to tell you because they've already told you what they're going to do, right? It's not a surprise for anyone. It's not a surprise what an audit is. It's not a surprise what these disgusting courses are. It's not a surprise what they do to them in the ethics handlings. They've all gotten them. Yes, we would suggest they don't put themselves into that. We would suggest that it's not in their best interest. But outside of that, they can go get actually an advocate. Adults, when they get in trouble, you guys have to go paid advocates to speak on their behalf and advocate on their behalf. It's called a criminal attorney. It's called a civil attorney. Both things they have to pay to be advocated for. We're talking about what here? This. In what world can a 12-year-old advocate, I don't want to be an auditor, Dad? What? You don't want to be an auditor? You don't want to save this planet? You don't want to be what L. Ron Hubbard told us was going to be so amazing and great and wonderful? What the hell is wrong with you? Why don't you want to help? I want to be an artist, Dad. I don't know if I like, you don't like this? The only solution that mankind has for themselves and you don't like it? And you want to go, what? Paint something on a canvas? You're going to waste your time. You're literally going to waste your time. In all the thousands of trillions of billions of years in the whole entire history of this galactic universe, you get the choice to become like L. Ron Hubbard and you choose to do you. Yeah, the kids do not have a chance against a father that speaks to them like that. They don't. They just simply don't. They just fold. Okay, Daddy, whatever you say. Okay, sure. Okay. So that's what actual accountability would actually start sounding like, you guys. Accountability. Hi, Serge, who filed a lawsuit to Scientology. It's a Jane Doe on Subbable SP. We can't release the name. It's a Jane Doe. When were these charges first filed? How many years has it been already? I can't really tell you right now. So we're going to have to look into that. But, you know, I believe all the info is there in what Fat Grammy just posted in the Tony Ortega thing. Minion, yeah, no, that will never happen because then the parents would have to be held accountable for their actions. I mean, yeah, but you know what? They could also start the ball rolling by coming clean because unlike Scientology, the law does recognize and does give grace to even the most disgusting, abominable criminals on planet Earth. If they have a change of heart, the law recognizes that it needs them to build cases, them to denounce what the hell they got involved in. So Scientology parents are very, 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 very well served actually taking initiative, actually denouncing all of this, actually cutting deals with the Department of Justice and Homeland Security and saying, I'll tell you everything I know, everything I did. And all of that will be taken into account of that criminal case and whatever possible criminal liability someone could incur in being involved in this. Right now, we're looking for those type of heroes. Imagine that the entire community would see adults that would really stand up to this disgusting abuse and say, no more. I participated in this. I was out of my living MF mind when I did this. Today, I realize how disgusting it all is, how disgusting it all was, and how disgusting it is that children are still right there in Big Blue getting abused, right there at the Fort Harrison being abused, right there at Mace Kingsley being abused, right there at Delphi being abused, right there wherever the hell they're getting exposed to L. Ron Hubbard disgusting rhetoric. Then we could actually start rewinding the wheel of abuse and dysfunction. Thank you, Laura. She was there at the elevator. So let's be very, very specific and precise. This is what Laura is saying. He shoved her over to get out of the elevator because he didn't want to hear what I was saying. It was very intentional and corrupt. And yeah, you guys, if you're in an elevator with someone that has freedom of speech denouncing you about criminal acts that she experienced for herself, and you're very pressed about that, it does not give you the right to physically touch another human being, let alone someone that's suing you, Robert E. Mangle. Imagine we're having to tell you that. Do not touch anyone else. You're not being touched. No one is touching you. We're keeping away from you. We're so disgusted by you. We want nothing to be close to you. Believe you me. You put yourself in that elevator with those people. Why? Why couldn't you have waited? You made a choice of going in and being there. So in what world are you putting yourself in that position to then act very pressed, to then physically touched and shove her over to get out of the elevator? Hello, Ines. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. Sort of similar to DOA's experience earlier, got shoved because they wanted him to stop saying what he was saying. I mean, again, you guys, with these narcissists that don't want to be told the facts are getting exposed. We're not checking with them if they want those facts exposed or not. We're gifting them awareness. For all Scientology parents that you thought you weren't child trafficking your child, you are. You are. And it sucks to be you. But you know what? Stop doing it. That's what we're pleading with all of you. If Scientology tomorrow says, okay, no more kids will be allowed from here on out, 21 and up only, I will shut down my YouTube channel forever. I don't want to talk about this ever again. I'm nauseated and I'm disgusted. And I will shut this channel. I will not speak on this issue ever again if they stop abusing kids with full impunity. If they stop pretending that they can put a child in a session, a child in an audit, sec check, ethics handling, whatever the F they're calling their abuse. Children are off limits. Children cannot consent. No more kids in Scientology. How much clearer can anyone possibly be? I am not advocating for adults. I am not getting in their lives. I do not give an F what in the hell they find is going to be beneficial to them. Not going to advocate for them. Not going to give an F. Not. I have no opinion. Do you do whatever in the hell you want. Do not bring your children in there. And yeah, the tactics are similar because they just keep escalating. Lauren, question, is there a known list of trusted attorneys who have successfully litigated cases against Scientology? It's a very short list, Lauren, because again, when you are being abused, you are usually left as roadkill by design. Meaning it's going to be very, very hard for you to make a lot of money to, all of a sudden be able to employ the amount of legal minds that need to do their job, that need to put up a case, that need to do everything that is being done in the courtrooms right now. Now, juxtapose that to Scientology. All they have is money. All they have is attorneys on retainer. All they have is that. So the legal process isn't there to help the victims. The legal process is there to help those who can pay the attorney fees to have justice for themselves. So there's a very, very small short list of attorneys that have successfully litigated, and that is by design, not by mistake. Exactly, Laureen. Beaver's mom, Usher's mom, Britney's folks. Kids that get exploited, kids that get made into tokens, into cash cows. I was making $100,000 plus for Debbie Cook inside of those hotels. I wasn't singing, I wasn't dancing, but I was still performing a role for Debbie Cook. So the trafficking is the trafficking is the trafficking is the trafficking. Are you going to call into the state bar meeting? Yes, Amy, I've been calling in. I think I've done 2 state bars so far. I know there's more. Oh, thank you, Fat Grammy. The FAIR Act is the Forced Arbitration Injustice Repeal Act is proposed legislation in the U.S. Congress. The comprehensive legislation would prohibit pre-dispute forced arbitration agreements. Well, there you go, you guys. Thank you for posting that. That's what we need. We need exactly this, the forced arbitration injustice repeal. That makes more sense. That's what you guys are saying, that we need to go to Congress about that. Thank you, Selma. Exactly, YRB. This is very important. Calling the state bar meeting, remember, it's about education and not a specific attorney. File complaints against attorneys online. Scientology contracts need study. Okay. Thank you for that. Good point. Power lies to paralyze. Everyone in Scientology is in a hypnotic trance. Their critical thinking is non-existence. Yes, exactly, power lies. Their entire brain has been compromised because they're addicted to being accepted by a group that does not give a literal shred about their humanity and does not give a literal shred of an F about their kids. And that's what happens when Scientology sticks their fangs into your parents become zombies. And then all of a sudden they're abusing you and telling you they're helping you. All of a sudden they are literally committing crimes against you. And they're delusionally purporting that this is very beneficial and helpful. They are in a complete and utter trance. And it's disgusting. This is what it is, Miss Tammy. Stop all audits, ethics handlings, and grooming courses on children. Make no mistake, it's all child abuse. It's all just child abuse. It's all indefensible. No Scientology parent could defend that against us. That we were groomed to think it was all just legit. We thought we gave them a lot of benefit of the doubt to all of these adults that were in our lives. We treated them with respect. We called them sir. That's how much of a power dynamic imbalance existed in those relationships where they did scam us. Lauren, if Mike Rinder came forward about how his children were raised, that could help his own daughter leave and others. I mean, yeah, it would be a step in the right direction. It could help a lot of kids if Mike Rinder actually came clean, since he was one of the attorney whisperers that helped L. Ron Hubbard get his sham propped up as a religion. So that would be very beneficial if Mike Rinder told everyone he's full of shit. He utilized the law and weaponized it against all kids inside of those hotels, including his own. And he's sorry that he ever did this to the kids. That would be very, very helpful. All abusers and enablers need to take accountability. This includes the parents who turned the children over to the hotels and commercial buildings. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. The only power we have, the only power we want is for the abuse to stop being done to other kids today. Today. That's what matters. That's what counts. That's what would be breaking the cycle of abuse and trauma. And this is a very good point. California, when the states has mandated reporting, even for religions, has anyone ever gone through that angle? If you don't report, the church can get fined for each time that it is not. Yes, Anne, but remember, in Scientology, there is no such thing as mandated reporting. I mean, this is breaking news to me as of recent. I thought, in Scientology, they got rid of mandated reporters. They got rid of therapists. They got rid of psychiatrists. They got rid of teachers that weren't Scientology groomed. They got rid of doctors that weren't Scientology groomed. So they cut all the mandated reporters around you. And believe you me, they don't give an F about being mandated reporters themselves. When someone commits a criminal act inside those hotels, Scientology moves to make money, to monetize that abuse, to tell the person that committed that as the adult that they now need to pay a lot of money to get interrogated and self-incriminate. And then they tell their child that that was their fault to do that. So I mean, I get that there's all these things in the law about how they're supposed to be mandated reporters, but everyone's reporting, but all the reports are being kept internal. That's why they all know what type of crimes they've all committed. That's why there is no shred of plausible deniability. I mean, it couldn't be more easier than that. Exactly, Miss Tammy. Auditing children is child abuse. Ethics handlings on children is child abuse. Grooming courses on children are child abuse. Don't get it twisted. It is all textbook child abuse. Exactly. Even at 21 is still dangerous and evil and effed up. Couldn't agree with you more. Couldn't agree with you literally more. The only problem is, once again, when people are grown as adults, they make choices that could be horrific and disgusting and very distasteful to people. But that is what Scientology has relied to purport that whatever the hell they do in those hotels couldn't be more about the First Amendment covering it. No one outside can act disgusted and say, why are you doing that to yourself? And expect a grown adult that is all about doing that to themselves to stop. We can find it very effed up. We can find it very disgusting, but they get to do it if they want to. They just don't get to do it to kids. Is there a compilation of legal documents and practices and procedures on L. Hubbard and David's directives? Yes. They have a whole legal section of how to handle legal things, where they include and say that suing people is to destroy them, and it's not on the merits of this lawsuit. It's just to intimidate and to derail them and to drive them into complete apathy. Parents are in a trance, leaving kids to be preyed upon by the organization. And again, you guys, it took all Scientology parents as a collective to come to that agreement for it to be done at this level of industrial size scale. That's the tragedy. That it's always the group thing. We all think the same, right? So it must be very legal. It must be very right. Getting a whole bunch of collective adults to agree that depravities are legal is not a good defense. Not a good defense at all. But yet that's where we are right now. They all pretend it's legal because so many people have done it, so it must be very legal. Not true. Not true. This case is crazy. If I have this right, the judge gave a choice of putting it off until 2027, 28 or deal with the cult across a boardroom table in arbitration. Totally BS if that's the case. I mean, I don't want to misquote the judge in that regard, because a judge was just, I think, simply stating that his docket is so full that, and that's what you get with civil litigation. Like, it might suck, we might hate it, whatever, but it's like, that's what you get. And the problem is not that it is in 4 years. The problem is that the discovery isn't being moved. David Miscavige is nowhere around to be deposed. And there's so many things that they're doing to sabotage the process through all of these procedural things. If they were playing by the book, the Scientology attorneys, if they weren't playing dumb on a full-time basis, if they were making their case because they really do believe their client is not implicated, then we would be somewhere else. But no, I think this would be a misrepresentation to say that the judge gave a choice of either put it off to then or go to arbitration. They haven't even ruled on the arbitration thing. I mean, again, these were other motions being discussed and other things. Like I said, Scientology trying to really out the Jane Doe, really making a big stink about that. And then, in the context of that, also discussing that it might take 4 years to get this to where it needs to go. And you know what? Again, it's like, where is the criminal investigation of all of these systemic abuse? The Jane Doe was trafficked all the way to Las Vegas to marry a grown man. Why do you think Scientology was having minors leave California, end up in Las Vegas to really, get their nuptials going on? Because, again, Scientology hates people to take vacations, hates people to miss an hour on post. Well, it turns out that in Las Vegas, you don't need a mandated reporter. You don't need a psychiatric evaluation before they allow for you to get married. So imagine that the Scientology attorneys are quite aware of this and are still there pretending that they don't know anything and that they done nothing wrong and everything is great and everything is wonderful. Sandy, I was wondering why the policy that Miriam spoke out isn't talked about more, something about a child being able to kiss an adult. Sandy, this is in book 1. In the first book that L. Ron Hubbard wrote, he wrote that there should be nothing wrong with an adult kissing a kid and that the kid should have no big negative reaction to that. Because if the kid does have a negative reaction, then it's probably something wrong with the kid. Laura, I remember watching 25 different auditing sessions live in a monitoring room of over 25 different TVs with VHS recording hours and hours of illegal behavior and sexually forced questions, all over with Gayla Gualtieri. Gayla Gualtieri, who was a cadet born as a Sea Org as a minor at the time of recording all of these sessions. This was her job. This was a job given to a child by Debbie Cook, you guys. Gayla Gualtieri was a tiny girl that I remember when she first got to Flag, because she was so tiny and petite and she was so young. And her job was to record these audits, to listen to these audits all day, all night, 24/7, 365, manage that station. No one. I was forced at 14 to 15 to stay up all night at the Fort Harrison to study a class. I mean, again, you guys, like, our abuse was systemic, institutionalized, sleep deprivation, get to do the disgusting grooming courses, drill it with a doll, groom it with a doll, groom all of this abuse through a doll is how they got to the kids. That's the blood dripping from Scientology parents' hands. That they use grooming. They took grooming to an extent that is unthinkable and fully indefensible. Grabbing teddy bears and dolls Exactly, Laura. Good point. It was in a converted Fort Harrison hotel room into a monitoring recording room. That's right. They literally destroyed 2 rooms and they joined them together because they needed a bigger space. Exactly. And if they don't do anything about child abuse, sexual abuse, how can the how about the child endangerment angle? Having no more jobs that they shouldn't be at such a young age. I mean, again, L. Ron Hubbard is for no one 21 and down. Period. Full stop. I cannot control what a grown adult reads or gets his hands on. All we can say is not the children. No one. I was forced to clean the whole hotel rooms with only a few people. Exactly, no one. They told us, oh, you guys, clean hotel rooms. That's really going to make you a very powerful person. We were being treated and we were being used as slaves. So a slave is not a very powerful person. And a child slave is a full legal abomination. Yeah, this is dystopian stuff. No, when I was knocked out doing renovations at the Fort Harrison and no one brought me to a doctor. That's right, no one, because again, they don't bring you to doctors because they're mandated reporters. And if you show up to a doctor with a broken bone, they're going to have to understand where that broken bone came from. And if you broke that bone doing heavy lifting, demolition, and construction, which is illegal to do with children, then that's exactly why we are exactly where we are right now. Thank you, Dastardly Saboteur. Of course, they recorded everything. There's an old video of Miscavige showing the new equipment that was basically recording them. You guys, the recording is something they're very proud of. So don't think that this is a P. Diddy situation where David Miscavige was so unhinged that he came up with that idea to do that for himself. It was Debbie Cook, the one that's getting pay the big checks right now to shut the F up, who set up this system for herself inside that Fort Harrison hotel. And they were very proud of it. Very, very proud. I was told I would go to a school, but we had a fake school at the Quality Inn Hotel that was full of infestations of roaches, and we didn't study. We talked and played Dungeons and Dragons instead. I mean, again, you guys, there was no wanting the kids to be educated because you know why they didn't want us to be educated? Because they didn't want us to have power, independence, or agency. Thank you, Anne, for gifting these memberships. That is so generous of you. Thank you for your support. No one. My parents put me there and we couldn't trust the parents to help. I mean, that's the problem, you guys. Like, no, all adults are compromised. All adults are compromised. There is no safe adult in those hotels. There's no adult that's going to be like, wait, what happened to you? You're crying? Oh, you need to be put back in session. You're complaining? You didn't like being locked up for 5 hours? Oh, let me write this down. No, no, no. We need to really write this down. You need to be locked up again. To be locked up again and interrogated. All the kids were so abused without anyone to stand up. I'm sorry that you lived through that. No child should ever have their childhood destroyed. I mean, that's what the law says, you guys. The law says, no, you're not allowed to destroy a childhood's life. It's common sense. The law is common sense. As much as everybody tries to be like, oh, the law's so complicated and there could be a million scenarios. You know what the law is after we read it? Straightforward. Straightforward. Kelly, YouTube fan comment. Just want to know that I'm so proud of you, Nora, Liz Gale, Laura, Miriam, and others for speaking the truth. No more kids in Scientology. Thank you, Kelly. If my parents said no to them taking me, they would have been punished also. True. True. The parents would also be punished, but the parents knew that that was part of the deal. That's their problem with the parents. So again, they can put their big boy pants on and they can go, if you come after my children over my dead body, you'll have to come through me. And my child is not going to be used as fair game inside of the hotel, given the fact that I'm a grown adult, given the fact that I've observed and seen all of these disgusting things that, you know, I might like as an adult. I might think it's great and wonderful, but you know what? They won't be able to have that for themselves until they reach their own maturity and make their own decisions. These parents need to grow a spine and save the children. If they are scared, how do they think the kids will fare? I mean, that's exactly right, Anne. It's like adults that want to say it's scary. It is scary. It's scary to stand up to corruption. It's scary to stand up to bullies. It's scary to stand up to horrible, disgusting attorneys that are all about pretending that their client really wants to save a world by abusing kids. Very, very scary to stand up to any of that, but there is no other choice because, again, the kids that are there have no idea what in the hell is going on. They just don't. They're groomed and they're disassociated. We were all disassociated because the abuse came 24/7, 365. Question: how do judges and attorneys understand what auditing is and what children have to endure in these hotels? They don't, Kelly, YouTube fan, because again, the whole pitch has been that just because they put this on the door, they cannot have a single opinion about it. They cannot hear evidence complaining about it. They cannot denounce anything about it. Nothing. Nothing. Everything is like, oh, very religious, very religious. That's what we're being told. The IRS says it's very religious. So I guess the IRS really knows what religion is. I guess the IRS is really superseding all the courts of these United States by granting, including but not limited to, full-blown tax incentives to self-admitted felons, including but not limited to pedophiles. So imagine that the courts defer to the IRS and then the IRS defers to the courts. Oh, you say that's a religion, no one can have an opinion. Oh, I say that they're a very nonprofit organization that really needs to incentivize all the self-admitted pedophiles that are getting off. Full-blown obstruction of justice, aided and abetted by the IRS. Sandy, how did they take down Nexium but continue to ignore Scientology? Very good question, Sandy. Again, Nexium was a bunch of adults, a bunch of grown women that, again, had the ratio probably even smaller than this, than the Diddy rate, than this. All of these adults, all of these kids. Nexium had a small percentage of kids here. All of these were adults. And that was called sex trafficking. And that was called racketeering. And Keith Rainier is rotting in a jail cell, all because he failed to do this. That's all that Keith Rainier failed to do. Put a cross and talk to Monique Yingling and Robert E. Mangle. If he had done that, then he'd be, having a religious experience, everyone. What is the hell are you so pressed about? Thank you, Miss Tammy. Miss Tammy, I remember when you did the 10X Kids video and that child talk about her secret and my heart is still broken. Yes. Imagine that we have that, caught them on tape, you guys, with Grant Cardone's young daughter talking about what her dad does to her and that's her secret. Because they had a Ask Me Anything Kids edition and some disgusting man online send that question in. I mean, it's all over the public record. Everything that we've said is on the public record. Thank you, Jamie. Appreciated. Yeah. Thank you. I second Miss Tammy. I'm happy to see everyone in this chat is advocating for the children. They need advocates, you guys. Like the desert needs the literal rain. They need people that care. They need people that can call out their parents. It's not illegal to call out child abusers. It's not illegal to tell a child abuser, yo, stop subjecting your child to the things that you get off on as a full-blown adult. It's that easy. It's that simple. If the Scientology parents get enough people telling them that, are they going to be subjecting their kids to the same things willy-nilly, or are they going to be thinking twice? Because I think they're going to start thinking twice. The problem is that they've been told that everything was great, that everything was wonderful, that everything is an everything goes environment inside of there. Pearl Snappy, did you hear that the city of Austin doesn't want the word Scientology used in my court trial? Damn. I mean, again, with all of these, taking everything, stripping everything from context, you guys. Strip it from context, and then let's get to the truth. Imagine being so stupid. All of these stupid, idiotic attorneys that go, you know how we get to the truth? By stripping context. You know how we get to the facts and get some justice applied? By stripping context. By just pretending and by going, let's just, compartmentalize everything. So I'm sorry that happened. I think that's disgusting. And the context is everything in your case. So congratulations to the city of Austin in joining, in enabling, in supporting, not freedom of religion, freedom to make children fair game to be trafficked. Yeah. It's so egregious. Comment from Haggis Vasher, making a child of SA go back to their abuses for arbitration has to be exposing them to further abuse, and it needs to stop. I mean, it makes no sense, you guys. It is unconscionable. It's what it's called. In the law, is unconscionable. Oh, look at this. The city attorney from Austin is refusing to meet with Pearl's attorney. I mean, again, you guys, the corruption is smeared all over the walls. The corruption, the legal corruption. Imagine we already facing insurmountable amounts of corruption inside the Scientology hotels. So then when you do try to get a shred of justice, then all we get is more corruption. Exactly. And I guess we'll just have to refer to them as large-scale human trafficking, child abusing pyramid scam. I mean, what else do they want to be referred to as? And I agree. We'll call to the Austin if meetings get posted. I mean, again, you guys, we have to use our voice where it matters, where we can call out the literal corruption that's happening in real time so that we can literally start reining it back. That's what the law calls for. So I think that's pretty much all the comments and questions. I thank all of you for joining us. I thank all of you for supporting this unthinkable plight, unthinkable burden that we've carried for ourselves for far too long. The fact that you guys are willing to listen, the fact that you guys are willing to show up, the fact that we are not having to convince anyone here that an adult and a child is not the same thing is already a step forward and is already a step in the literal right direction. So we will continue advocating for the day that there's going to be no more kids stuck inside the Scientology hotels. Thank you guys so much for joining to this Ask Me Anything, and I will see you all soon. Bye-bye.